All right, so I just hit the recording link, and tomorrow I will get that out to everybody by lunchtime. So let me start off by saying I'm Tricia with Easy E-mini Trade, and tonight we're going to be going over the use of order flow tools in conjunction with the volume value areas. And the tools that you'll see in this presentation were developed by Maria Russo's of Trade Order Flow, and I'll go over more of that toward the end of the presentation. During the presentation, if you have any questions, you can type them in, and Maria is here. She can answer via the keyboard. Otherwise, toward the end, we can take questions and answer with the mic. So I hope that you guys enjoy the presentation. So first off, let's start with our disclosure here. I'm sure that you've read it. It's been sitting there. You see it everywhere. Basically, don't trade with money you can't afford to lose. Okay, so let's go. So as I said, tonight we're going over how to trade using order flow and value areas. And I started using Maria's tools maybe, I guess it's a little over 4 months now. And I had looked all over the place and looked at many different types of tools because I really have always been interested in using order flow. I just figured it made perfect sense to me. I would be able to see what was going on behind the scenes instead of just taking a setup and not knowing, okay, is it going to continue the move? Is it going to stall? Is it going to pull back? So you always kind of feel, and I'm sure that you feel the same way, you always kind of feel like you have the uncertainty. You take the trade and it's either going to go or not go. It's that simple. But having the order flow kind of running in the background has helped me tremendously. And if you ask 10 different people what their definition of order flow is, you're going to get 10 different answers. This is my perception of it. Order flow trading. There are many opinions and variations of the definition. One interpretation is, and this is mine, anticipating the price levels where there is higher volume traded and to just trade those areas where price is likely either to hold and reverse or break out of these areas. So that's my interpretation of order flow. And so the obvious question would be, okay, so where are these price levels that you're supposed to trade? How do you find them? And of course, there are many different ways to find support and resistance. You can draw your lines based on price levels that you find continually hit and hold. You can use floor trader pivots. You can use Fibonacci retracement areas, Fibonacci confluence areas, previous day's high, low, close, on and on and on. So the big question is, when you come to these areas, how do you know whether they're going to hold or break out? So that's always the question. That's always the concern I have when I'm taking a trade. I've always been more of a continuation type trader, getting in on the move as it's already happening, or a breakout trader. And so those are always the things running in the back of your mind. Okay, I'm going to get in this trade, and now it's going to completely reverse. Or I'm going to take this breakout trade, and it's going to suck me in, and it's going to completely reverse. Still happens, but using the order flow in the background has helped tremendously. So one reliable way to define those areas that continually are holding is to use the volume value areas of a developing market profile. And I've also found that using the value areas of the previous day also helps. So a market profile, if you're not familiar with it, and I'm not going to go into great detail because there are books and courses written and given just on market profile. So, it's beyond the scope of this webinar here. But a brief explanation is it's a vertical graphic that displays price and time, and this allows you to see at a glance the price levels that have the most concentrated volume. So at just looking at a picture of this, and I'll show you a slide here in just a second, you can see the whole entire day in one view. And if you want more information on the market profile, you can go to the CME and you can download Peter Stottlemyer's book, Tongue Twister, there at no charge. and you can read up on it. It's a pretty boring read, sorry to say, but I found it pretty boring. The link that I've got listed there is a tutorial on market profile, which you might find really helpful, and it's easy to get through, and there's short little intervals, so you can easily get through it. Also, if you do a search on the internet, you can find Mind Over Markets by James Dalton, and I found a free PDF download on that as well, and that is also a really good explanation of market profile. But this is it at a glance, and this is the Russell, and this was yesterday right here, and this was the whole week. And so you can see here in looking at this diagram that for the whole week leading up to yesterday, including yesterday, these are all the different price levels. You can see the price level over here, and then you can see the wider these concentration of these blocks, that's where you have the most volume traded. Here's a little better view with it stretched out a little bit. And you can't see very well, but each of these are made up of letters. And like I said, I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but they're all broken down into letters, and each letter represents a half hour. And you can change it. This is part of Maria's tools, and you can change it to represent any stretch of time that you want each letter. So in looking at this, you can get a glance at the whole entire week. So you can see you have a lot of concentration here in volume, for example. Here, this was what day? It was Wednesday, so this is Tuesday. You can see a lot of concentration here. So that's what this is showing you. In a glance, where's the heaviest volume concentration? What price levels? So the value area is basically where 70% of the trades took place. And this is the area that's determined to be the fair value area. Price is often going to find its way back there. When you have price trading above the fair value area, it's considered that price is above value. Below the fair value area, considered below value. Right in the middle of the fair value area, you have the point of control, and that's called the POC. And you'll find that when price trades to the higher low of the value areas, that very often price is going to try to make its way back to that point of control, that POC. And if price trades outside above or outside below the value area, very often you're going to find that price is going to trade back into that fair value area. And so looking at this chart, again, this is Maria's tools. This fuchsia line here is the point of control from the previous day. This is one of the value areas, this red line here, from the previous day, and this blue is a value area from the previous day. For the current day, the yellow area that you see here, this is considered the fair value. So anything in here is considered fair value, and price is typically going to find its way back in there. The upper part in the blue and the lower part in the blue, that's considered outside the fair value area. So you have a value area high here, then we have our second value area high here. Value area low, second value area low. And so what you're going to find, this is dynamic, so it's always changing, but price is generally going to stay inside this colored section here, the blue, the yellow, and the blue. Over here on the right, we've got the option to put volume over here. So at a glance, if we wanted to, we can see where the higher concentration of volume is. This is the divergence delta down here. I don't really use this for anything, but it's one of the tools that are available as well. This purple line here is the point of control. So this is what is running right through the middle here. And so what you'll find is when price trades outside the yellow value area, it's going to usually try to find its way back. So here you can see it find its way back, pulls back, busts through, finds its way up to the yellow inside the fair value area, pulls back to the point of control, pops back up, trades, hangs out here a little bit on the value area from yesterday, trades up to the yellow area, trades through it, tries to find its way to the upper value area here. It doesn't quite hit it, but comes close. Retraces. Where does it hold? Right there at the fair value area. Trades up to the point of control from yesterday, the previous day. Trades back down to the value area. So you can see that it's constantly hanging around in those vicinities. This is an order flow chart. And so on here we can see each bar here. Now I have it set as an 8-tick range chart. And I do better with that. Some people like a time-based chart. I know Maria likes a 5-minute chart most of the time. But for myself, I find that the bars get too big. So like I'd have one bar taking up many of these price levels if, like for example, we have a week like this week where we've had so much action in one 5-minute bar. So I do better with an 8-tick range chart. And not that we're worried so much about each individual bar here. We're more concerned about the price areas over here. And there are many options on this chart. Like I like to look at it with the bid and the ask just next to each other. You can have it show up bid times ask. There are lots of different options. Just the delta. You can have it show up as just the volume. Many different preferences as to how you can view it. This is how I like to view it. And it's a little hard to see, but you do have shaded areas here. So the higher concentration of volume in the specific price areas will show up either a darker green or a darker red. Down here, you have the option of what areas here that you want to show, what compartments. This is what I choose. I don't like to have a whole lot down there. I like to look at the delta. The delta is the difference between the bid and the ask orders. So for example, here you see 196, so that means there was 196 more buys than sells. Here you have minus 32. You have 32 more sell orders than buy orders. Now, a lot of people that you talk to who use order flow say that the delta is useless. I don't find that at all when using this on an 8-tick range chart because it's still small enough where this is pretty accurate as to, you know, who's stepping up, the buyers or the sellers. So I find it really helpful. Also on this chart, it'll put your point of controls, your point of control and your value area highs and lows. And you've got the volume over here as well. And you'll be able to easily see the higher concentration of volume by how dark blue this is here. And also here you can see the bids and the ask. So, but just looking at this chart by itself, it's hard to determine what the heck am I supposed to do with this. It's like, okay, all by itself, I'm sure there are some amazing, talented traders out there, like Maria, for example, who can just look at this and trade from this. I can't. I can't do it. And it's the same thing with tape readers. You have tape readers who are so talented, and I would love to be one of those, but you know, I'm not. I'm not a tape reader. So how can I put this all together? So here's how we do it. We use the value areas from the market profile and the order flow as an effective trading combination. So the market profile is going to tell us where the value areas are, and that's the areas where price will either hold or trade back to or break out from. And order flow tells us who's in control, the buyers or the sellers. So this will help to determine whether price is going to hold those value areas or break through. At least, you know, that's the hope. I'm not going to say that you never get burned. Of course you do. There's no such thing as never having a stop out. And if somebody tells you different, then they're liars. It's that simple. So here's how we put it all together. So I've got the chart on the left with my value areas. I've got the chart on the right with my order flow. And this is crude, and this is yesterday morning. And this was pre-market. This is about 6 o'clock yesterday morning. And I'm going to just show you how I'm using it. There are many different ways that you can use it. And I'm using it actually in conjunction with also my own setups. And so if you have setups that you love to trade, you can still make use of order flow. So here's what I'm going to show you how I'm using it. So on the left here, this is crude. This is on an 8-tick range chart. On both of these charts, order flow, I have it on an 8-tick range chart. And the idea about behind trading these value areas is everything that's out there tells you not to wait for confirmation, and that goes against everything that I know. And I say that because, I'm learning something totally new here, so it's still new to me. I've only been doing it 4 or 5 months, and so just because of my trading personality, I always want confirmation. So I'm struggling with that, I'll admit. So the idea about trading the value areas is you're just supposed to put your order there, and it's either going to break out or pull back or stop you out. And the idea is that, like here, for example, you can see we come up to the previous day's point of control, and the idea is you should just go ahead and put your buy in, right in that area, or whatever area you determine to be the value area on your chart. You can see we've got this black support and resistance line here. I think that might be like the opening range or something. And you just put your order in, and you use a really small stop on the opposite side of, for example, let's say you were going to buy here as it was coming back into the fair value area. You put your buy stop there, and it either goes, or you have a really small stop and it stops you out. So I'm getting better at doing that, but that's not really my style. So this is more my style. Comes up to the resistance here. So how do I know that the point of control, is it going to hold it? This is from the previous day, or is it going to break out? Here's the order flow in that same time right here. So right here you can see it coming up to the point of control here, and I look at the delta. You can also look at the actual order flow with the buy orders and sell orders, and you're always looking at these on a diagonal, just like your dome. These would be the buyers, these would be the sellers. So these would be in conjunction with each other. So you're always looking at it on a diagonal here. So we have the price bar coming up here into the point of control, and like I said, this is this bar right here. And you can see before we ever get there, and these are just a couple subtleties that I've noticed that have helped me, and hopefully they'll help you. If price is heading towards resistance and I see high volume coming before we ever hit that resistance area, so for example here I'm thinking, okay, I want to take a short off of this point of control. And so I see big buyers coming in here. I have 200 here for my delta before it ever hits resistance. To me, what I've noticed is if that happens before it hits resistance, then usually what happens is it follows up with a lower number of buyers followed by an even lower number of buyers, and even then, you can see big buyers before it ever hits resistance, and then you can see sometimes sellers, buyers, sellers kind of dwindling back and forth. So when I see that, that's a short sign to me that I'm going to be able to probably go short here once it attempts to break through this area and fails. So I see the big buyers coming in, so I'm waiting to see what's going to happen on the next bar here. So I can see fewer buyers, even fewer buyers, not a whole lot of buyers. Then it comes down to almost, equal. You can see I have 14 here. Then I can see minus 30. Now I can see minus 56. So I can see that that's increasing the sellers off of this area of resistance. So once it pulls back off of that and I see the sellers, I can go ahead and I can step in and short it. And what I would be looking for shorting off this area here is I would be looking for it to find its way back to the lower end of the fair value area here, right here where you see it in yellow. And then you're grateful when you see it keep going. If it busts through this fair value area here, then you would be looking for it to trade to the opposite side of the blue here in this area here, like this 84.70 vicinity. Now, realistically, you could short once it passes through this value area here, and that's the next slide. Christy says, so which bar would you go short on? What I would do, Christy, is once I see the seller step up, so here you could see right here we have big sellers before it ever hits resistance. Then I have fewer buyers. So we have lots of buyers, even fewer yet. They step up here a little bit, but then it goes to almost neck and neck here. And then once it goes right here to this negative, I would just short it. Like I wouldn't even look at a level so much as I would just, get short. Or over here you could see the volume over here. We have some higher volume right here at like this 84, 85, 86 area. So you could even just short it in that area once you see that you've got more sellers. So you can even wait, this bar closes, and then you see that you've got the sellers because you've got the negative delta there, and you can just go ahead and short it in that area, expecting, the hope would be that you find your way down here. Right, and I don't have like any clear-cut rules, like if I see, minus 30 or plus 30 or plus 500, it's just like here you can just see that the buyers are dwindling. And not to say that it couldn't just as easily, once I went short, the buyers step up and I get stopped out, but I can use a stop just on the other side of that point of control, or whatever you're comfortable with. So the next opportunity, you're either in from this trade here, or once it breaks through the fair value area here, the assumption is that we're going to find our way to the lower side here. So right here, where I have this bar circled, this is right into that area. So, a short sell sign for me would be, if I saw a bunch of buyers stepping up before it ever got there, then I would think that it's probably going to bounce off that area. But we didn't. We saw sellers, and then big sellers. And by big sellers, I mean in comparison to the buyers. I'm not saying that this is a huge amount of orders or anything, but for this time of day, it's just fine. So you could short it there. Once it trades down to the lower part here, if you're aggressive and you have the buyers stepping up, you could go ahead and buy it off of that lower area here, expecting it to retrace back up to this area. Now, for me, I didn't do anything there because I couldn't figure it out. You can see we kind of chopped back and forth here. Let me go back to the last slide. So you can see in that area we were just kind of back and forth. Buyers, sellers, no real clear-cut decision on which one was going to win, in my opinion. So I didn't do anything here. Now, you could have been aggressive and tried to buy, as soon as it tried to pop out here and you saw the buyers. Or once it failed to break out, you could have shorted it. Like I said, I didn't do anything there. It was just chopping sideways. So for me, we know that this area here held last. We saw it. We traded it. Yes, Eastern Standard Time. Oops, thanks, Maria. I didn't notice that you answered that. So we get back up to that point of control from the previous day. So we know it held here. So to me, that's less risky to just go ahead and take it. So we have, again, compared to the bars leading into this bar, you can see we have not a huge difference in the delta here as it's trying to push higher. We have 93 pushing into resistance before we ever get there. So we have more buyers before we ever get to resistance. Then as soon as it gets to resistance, or just before, we go to the negative here. Once it starts to pull back a little bit more off of that area, you can see we go negative again. So I can just go ahead and get in and assume, again, that this lower value area is going to be the area that I can use as a target. And then you're pleasantly surprised when it keeps going. Now, here you can see that you've got a large delta here for minus 131 right here. But that's after you pass right through there. So if you had a large number of sellers stepping in before you ever get to this fair value area, then I would just kind of just pay attention to if it's going to be followed up by more sellers, or now are the buyers going to step in. When you see it's more sellers, then you can just stay with your trade, or you can get in the trade there. So once it comes outside the fair value area, you can, take the trade. A lot of people won't trade in the yellow area here, but like I said earlier, it's continually finding its way to the upper part of the yellow, to the lower part, the upper part of the blue, the lower part of the blue. So it's continually going back and forth there. So there are all types of trades that you can take in those areas. So this is the NQ, and this is this morning pre-market. I never traded the NQ pre-market until I had the order flow. And this week, to be honest, it's been nicer to trade it pre-market than during the day. We've had all those crazy wild moves and difficult just getting the trades in. You see the trade, you want to execute your trade, and you go to place your order, and it's already 3 points past your entry. It's been crazy this week, crazy volume too. So here you can see this is 7:43 this morning. So you can see I'm up at the point of control here. So at this point, I don't know, is it going to break out or is it going to pull back off that area? So I just am a little bit patient, and I can see here we've got a positive delta here, and then we get an increased number here right as it's coming into resistance. So I'm just going to kind of wait and see what's the next bar going to do. And so then you can see we go to negative. And so I have a choice. I can go short right here when I see it, go follow up by, negative here. I can wait till this bar as you see negative. Now, I'm not going to say that this isn't hard to read. It's taken a lot of practice. And in real time, these numbers are constantly changing. So after the fact, like every other setup or any other way that you trade, it's really easy to see. But with practice, it does get easier because you can watch the actual orders, and you can tell pretty easily, especially pre-market, which side has the most orders, which side are they firing off mainly on, the buyers or the sellers. So it makes it a little easier. Also, it's nice about this is if you're in a trade, so let's say that you were long and you're trailing your stop, you could keep trailing your stop and maybe not get really tight with it until you see the negative delta step in. So that's been really helpful as well. I haven't mastered using a really tight stop yet. I either wind up using too small a stop and suffocating it, or just using my what comes to me naturally, just a little bit bigger stop, just give it room, and I'm fine with that too. But Maria, she can use a 3 or 4 tick stop, and it's like, I don't know, how do you do that? And also another area
practice, that's how you do it.
Yeah, practice, exactly. That's Maria, everybody. And then you can see that's coming down to the
hello, gang.
Value area here from the previous day. So that would be another spot to take a buy. Now, the other option that I mentioned earlier, or I was going to mention, or I think I put the wrong slide here. I put two of the same slide here. I meant to show you this one. I put two of the same slide in, but right here where it comes back up and tries to retest that point of control there. And this is the right video. Okay, good. Right slide. I just put the circle in the wrong spot. Right here where it comes back up and tries to retest that point of control, that's this bar right here. So you could go ahead and try and reshort it off of that area. Once you see that it turns to negative delta again, after you have very few buyers here in the way of the positive delta, and then you see this big number here, minus 62, compared to 8, plus 8, plus 9, plus 10, plus 9, then you could go ahead and short, knowing that the worst case scenario is that you're going to wind up probably trading as low as the junk here to your left, this congestion area. Best case scenario is you trade down to the value area from the previous day. Absolute best case scenario would be trading back down, this is a different chart, but into the blue area. So that would be the worst that would happen. Here's the area of support here. So it trades up, tries to retest, finds its way down to support, and that's right here. Now, what I wanted to say was the value areas will be marked on the order flow chart, but it doesn't start populating any information on this chart until you start your computer. So I find the chart that I use with the value areas, and this chart here, you have the options of choosing TPO for your value areas or the VWAP or volume. I like the VWAP, so whatever your preference is, and that would adjust those value area highlights. So we're at support here. This is the previous day's value area. So we come down, we test this area right here. You can see it. So at this point, we don't know, is it going to bounce or is it going to bust right through? So we're looking here. This is the bar, this red bar right here is this bar right here. So we've got negative delta as we're coming into support. It's not really telling us much of anything. Then we turn into positive as it's trying to bounce off that area. So you could be really aggressive, and once you see the positive, go ahead and buy it. And if you did, it works out. You probably get 10 or 12 ticks out of it. Or you could be someone like me who wants a retest of that support area to see if it wants to really bounce off of there. Because how many times do we see it comes down, you get a one touch, it bounces, and it comes back down and it breaks right through. So here you can see that we've got positive delta. It's not very big, 7, 17. Then after this little retracement here, the sellers step up again. Sellers step up again. Then we have the buyers, not very big buyers, getting a little bigger. And then here, this is a sign to me. We get negative delta of minus 47. And these numbers are not big because keep in mind this is pre-market, so these numbers are not going to be big. During the day they're a lot bigger. But this to me is a sure tell sign. Now I could be really aggressive, and I could, when I see the buyers step up, just go ahead and buy off this value area from the previous day. Or when I see this negative delta and price is not able to push lower, then to me that's a heads up. You should go ahead and buy it. Because if you have the sellers stepping up and price is going higher, like I said, that just gives me a clue that, hey, I'm going to buy this. I'm always suspicious when I see a high number of buyers coming in and the market can't go up, and when I see a high number of sellers coming in and the market can't go down. So I'm always suspicious of that. So I found that's pretty helpful as well. And then of course it keeps going. And then if you're trailing your stop, and then of course then you see the big buyers step in. And if you're trailing your stop, you could keep trailing it all the way up. You figure bouncing off this area here, just because of the congestion here to your left, you may run into some trouble. You don't. It keeps going. So then you're looking at the point of control here at this 37.10 area, trying to decide, okay, now is it going to hold that and pull back, or is it going to break out? So here's what we see on the order flow at that time. So we're coming into the point of control. Yes, it's being recorded, Francine. So you see the value, you see price coming into the point of control here. This is the area that's forming at that time. So as we're coming into the point of control, which is right here, right around 37.10, right in this area right here, right where you see this 9 and 7. So as we're coming into that, so obviously on the way up, we've got positive delta, positive delta, positive delta, and then just before we get to that 37.10, we step up with the negative delta. Then we have a little bit less negative delta. Then we have negative and negative. So realistically, you could go short here once it gets there and you see the negative delta. Probably works out maybe for 8 ticks or so, or you got stopped out, one or the other. You took a small target or you got stopped out. If you took it and you got stopped out, once it breaks through here, right here on this bar where you see the big buyers stepping in, go ahead and buy it. Even though you may have gotten stopped out trying to short it, turn around and you go ahead and buy it. So you see the buyers, buyers, buyers. I thought I had a second slide there. And like I said, if you did go short here, it could have worked if you were shooting for a small target or you got stopped out, either way. This also, the NQ this morning, this is about 8:40, and I skipped like 8:15 through 8:30 because we had news, and I don't trade on news, and price was going crazy anyway. So this was the next available time that I was interested in doing something. So this is at like 8:40 this morning. So this is the order flow. These are the bars that are forming here. And by the way, you guys will be able to download the slides. So any of the links that I have within this presentation, you'll be able to click on. So you'll be able to download those as well. So this area here where I have circled is this area here that I have circled. So we're watching this come down, and we're thinking, okay, well, we've got the lower value area here. We've got the value area from yesterday here in blue. So what I'm thinking is, okay, am I going to buy this off of this orange line, or am I going to sell it? So here, price congests here a little bit. I'm not willing to do anything unless it touches, for me, I'm thinking, I'm not willing to do anything unless it touches this orange area, because at this point here, like, I don't know, because it still has room below. If I short it, excuse me, if I buy it because it's not going lower, it still, in my mind, has the capability of finding its way down here to this lower value area. So this is what we see at that time in the order flow. So you see negative delta, positive delta, negative delta, negative, negative, negative. As we're breaking this area, you can see our negative delta is getting larger. So once it breaks through here, I can either wait until it breaks through, or once I see this go to a bigger negative delta, I can go ahead and short it, or I can just wait until this bar closes, and once I see I've got huge negative delta, and huge in comparison to the previous bars, let's just put it that way. Once I see I have that, then I can go ahead and short it. And then my next hopeful target would be the opposite side of the lower value area, the other side of the blue. And then once it doesn't get there, once it retraces back up here, you have the option to go ahead and buy it off this orange line with the hope of finding your way up to this blue line here. And then you can short off of there. And realistically, a better spot would be once it comes back inside blue area here, because you're going to find that it will often retrace. Also, if you find price, let me find one here. I don't think I have one. But if you find price, like here, coming outside the value area completely, I find that when it does that, it will often keep retracing back, back to the yellow area. So it's outside the value area completely, and we've seen a lot of that this week. And then it will retrace back to the orange, then move lower, retrace back to the orange line, move lower, orange line, move lower. So you see that a lot when it comes outside of the value areas. So the tools that Maria has with her package, these are the tools that you get with the package. And you get the divergence delta, the market profile plus, order flow chart, price action, and the VWAP market profile, which, like I said, you can use TPO or volume. And she has some other cool little ditties that go in line with using the order flow as well. And you can check those out. But if you wanted to see the order flow stuff in action, you can go to Maria's room, her training room, on Wednesdays or Thursdays, and see how it works firsthand. I'll warn you, Maria's a little crazy. She knows that. I love her, but she knows that. But she's an amazing, talented trader when it comes to the order flow and the value areas. So I would urge you, if you're interested in these tools, to definitely see Maria in action. And it's by request only because she has limited amount of space available. So just send her an email. And like I said, these links will be clickable once you get the download. And just send her an email requesting some time in her room. And she's going to make a special offer to you guys. And you'll get that in the email tomorrow with the link. Let's see. Prasnath is asking, can we see the delta on the order flow chart before any subsequent candles are formed? I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Like, we can see these delta here. This is constantly forming. So this number, as the orders are, like, okay, so let's say this is the bar that's forming right here. Prasnath? You're seeing this as it forms. So if this is the bar forming, this delta here is continually moving. Okay? Nico says, how to use the divergent delta indicator at the bottom of the value chart. I don't use it because I'm using the order flow, but this basically is telling you you've got the bid offers, the bids and the asks, and it's hard to see because I don't have it really fat here, but like at a glance, like the blue line is the total volume here, and it's hard to see the other red and green line here, but if the red's on top, you have the sellers in control. If you have the green on top, you have the buyers in control. And also what I like to do is, like, I'll use the order flow with my setups, my own personal setups, as well as the value areas. So let's say that I was getting, one of my setups that I trade is a Keltner channel continuation setup. So let's say that I got that setup before it was, before I ever hit this lower value area, and I'm thinking in my head, okay, if I take this Keltner channel setup, am I going to get stuck there, or is it going to keep going? So just like I'm using it here for this value area, I can use the order flow to say, okay, we've got all these sellers stepping up. I can go ahead and take that Keltner channel setup. Let's see here. What makes a bar closed on the order flow? Is it based on time? How long do you wait to have the day's value area develop until we start to trade it after the first hour? I have the Globex, Scott. So, mine will form, based on the global.
I think we're answering the same question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, do you want to take the mic too?
Yeses. Sure.
Then this way we won't overcross.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just.
Hi, guys.
This is Maria, everybody. And so let's start with, let's see, let's get rid of these. Okay, so Jerry was asking what makes a bar. I'll read the question out loud and you can either answer it or I can answer it. So we'll start with this question. What makes a bar closed on the order flow? Is it based on time? And the answer to that is it's up to you. Like
Right.
I like an 8-tick range chart, so each bar here will close based on 8 ticks in price. Maria likes a 5-minute bar, so hers will form for 5 minutes and then it will go on to the next bar. So Glenn's asking, do you find order flow is working well with your current setups? 5-minute opening, Amigo. If you're posting links in here, I'm not seeing them. No, you won't see the links, John. You'll get links in the download tomorrow. And Glenn, yes, the order flow is definitely helping with my current setups. I find myself being a little more aggressive on a lot more aggressive for me. Sorry, Glenn. Mike, fantastic video. Oh, great. Thanks, Mike. And John Wade, how are you? And Jerry is asking, will the order flow work on the custom bar? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Jerry. Maria, do you know what Jerry means?
Are you saying like a Simrenko or something, Jerry? He's not answering.
Jerry, do you mean like a tick
A
chart?
Simrenko? It'll work. It doesn't work very well on ticks. It works really well on range. Works really well on time. Works really well on volume. He's saying like a Simrenko or something.
So no Renko, Jerry.
I mean, I didn't try it. I custom Renko.
Oh, okay.
Logic Renko.
I really like the.
I don't have Logic Renko, Jerry, so I don't know if it'll work with that.
And it's a preference. Like I said, I like the range. She likes the time based. I found I was not seeing it very clearly. That's great, John. I see you about the pipe band. So what other questions, you guys? And everything is customizable in these tools. Like you can choose how much you want to show in here. You've got the fib lines here. You've got, so many options on this. I don't have a lot of them showing. It'll show the pivot highs. Actually, I call them swing highs and lows. They call them pivot highs and lows. They'll mark them here in blue, here in red. There's just so much. Like I said, if you want to see more about it, it would be best to go to Maria's training room. Mike's asking, what's the jagged green line going from the top to the bottom of the chart? This is a volume outline, and you can choose to have it there or not. So like if you look at the volume here on the left, this is the mirror image basically on the right, Keith. And you can choose with just the click to see it or not see it. Yeah, this is only for Ninja. Now the thing is I don't use Ninja. I have Sierra. And let me just, I'm going to just put two charts up here real quick. So I don't have Ninja per se. I use the demo. And so I'm able to, keep Sierra going, and I run Ninja at the same time, just using the demo, and I renew it every 21 days. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I'm happy where my account is, so I'm not willing to change it. John's asking, POC etc. doesn't change with the time frame of the chart. I know that's probably a duh question. No, it does not, John. So it doesn't matter what time frame you're looking at your chart on, these value areas won't change. Right, kind of like yesterday's open, high, low, close, right, where, they're going to be the same regardless. Now, what will change it is what you use as your start and end time. So like if you were somebody starting at, your chart to form at 9:30 compared to me who has it, my start, for the previous day, your value areas could differ.
I agree, John.
And John's saying 24 hours is the only way to go.
I agree. I concur.
So what else, you guys? I feel like I'm forgetting to tell you something.
I can expand a little.
Go ahead.
On this. Like what Trisha was saying, let's say you're long from this pivot, because I play the pivots a lot. So if you're unsure here, like, you have one seller. Obviously you have more buyers right here, but you still have...
Tell me where you're pointing so I can show them where you're pointing.
Okay. What's the price here? 97.54, 97.55-ish.
Okay, 37.55.
Right, at the slower pivot.
Right here.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You still have negative delta here. However, when you see buyers coming in, like over here they're going to dwindle a little. But when the buyers are coming in stronger, obviously, you can see these numbers increase on the right. So that's a good reason to stay with the trade. And when they go, like here you have 23, 6, 10, 7, 5, and there's only 5 up here, you want to like tighten up your stop, maybe get out, not wait for this reversal. But that's how I trade. I mean, that's my style of trading. And I would take it from this pivot to this pivot. And where
From
would my
here
stop be?
to here.
Right, right. Well, my stop would be on the opposing side.
So
Also,
she would buy right here, and she'd have her stop just under here,
1 or 2 ticks, right?
and then she would expect it to find its way back up here to this pivot right here, where this blue line is.
Yeah, Keith, they're bid-ask volume numbers. And then you have cumulative volume.
Let me just show you a couple of these options here. You can choose how you want to look at this. So this is how I like to look at it. But you can choose to look at it bid times ask. You can look at it as a bid-ask histogram. You can look at it as the delta. You can look at it as delta percentage, graduated volume. So these would be colored based on which price levels had the higher volume, delta colored volume, high-low volume, and volume histogram. Well, there's not going to be much on that. But this is just my preference. I do the best looking at it like that. And some of the other things that are on here, you can choose what you want to see over here on the left as well. You know, how much of this you want to see. And you can choose to see the bid and the ask down here on the bottom as well. But I find for me, less is better. Also, I don't trade the 1, 2, 3 pattern or ABC, but this will mark them for you. It'll also mark some support and resistance. I don't use it. And then, like I said, these are you can see these green dash right here. These are fib lines that it will automatically draw for you. Yes, Jim, I'm sorry. Jim was saying it would help if you repeat the question. And so I thought that we did. My apologies, Jim. And what Keith was asking are these bid and ask numbers?
Yes.
And Dudley's wanting Maria to explain.
I answered. I
answered. Oh, you typed it in. So Maria.
I typed it in.
Maria got a question. It was, please could you explain how you use the delta divergence? And that's this down here. And Maria answered.
I don't trade divergences necessarily, but I do like to know when they're happening, so then I could tighten up my stop.
And so what she would do, like let's say that she was long and she sees that she's got the sellers on top here, which she could see over here on the order flow. So in my opinion, like I don't need this divergence delta if I'm looking at the order flow. But if you had it on a chart and you didn't have the order flow handy, I could see how this would be very helpful. Now I do play divergences. I use divergence off a stochastic though, and it has nothing to do with obviously bid or the ask or the delta. But you know, let's say I was coming up to an area. Well, let me just go back here. Let's say that I was coming up to this point of control here, this purple line. Let's just pretend I was trading at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and I use a stochastic, and I see that I've got higher highs in price. Well, I've got a lower high on my stochastic. I won't hesitate. I'll just go ahead and take a short as long as my order flow is confirming that. I love using divergence, and you can use divergence off a stochastic, a CCI, you know, whatever your favorite indicator is. And let's see. Dudley is saying delta divergence is extremely important for my order flow setup. Yeah, and if you find it helpful, Dudley, then you know whatever works for you. And you know somebody else might find this really helpful because at a glance they know who's in control. You know, I've not been doing this very long with the order flow and the value areas. It's only been you know about 4 months. But, you know, maybe down the road I might like that better. But, you know, right now I feel like I really am in love with this order flow. I can't believe how much it's helped me.
I could answer Vince now.
Okay. So the question
Vince,
that Vince is asking,
okay, read the question, I'll answer it.
can you explain how the footprint could help predict turning points and or exhaustion? Why do they really have an edge over candles? So take it away.
Okay, because when price gets up here,
Tell me where you're pointing and I'll...
oh yeah, well, let's say you're in this long again from this pivot.
Okay.
When price starts to dwindle up here, and you know everybody's buying, and then you see the amount of orders coming in, and they're less, like they go from 25 to 15 to 46 to 120, and then you see orders coming in like 5, 6, 2, 1, and then if you look over to the left, when that starts happening, this is where price has been.
Right here, she's talking about.
Right. So you know, you want to see now, are these buyers going to defend this and push it up? So when the numbers start to dwindle, momentum to the upside is also waning at that point.
So you see what she's talking about here, I think, Vince. And something else.
It goes, you know, here, you go from 1 to 8, 0 to 4. At 4, these buyers are getting tired. They're getting tired here.
Right here, Vince.
And the same thing also when you have a, if it's going to break out, if a trade's going to break out to the upside or the downside, you will see the orders coming in. You will see the bars on the left growing in intensity and shade all the way on the left. Mm-hmm. On the volume ladder, you'll see these change.
Yeah.
Yep. You'll see these change. So you want to always see, are they going to defend this level or not? And that's the edge.
The other thing too, Vince, which I forgot to point out, is these guys call it a vacuum. But when you're looking at the volume and you have a high volume area, so let's just say, you know, compared to what we've got here now, this is a high volume area here compared to here, and this is a high volume area compared to here, and I'm looking on the left here, and this is a high volume area. So let's say that you were to take a buy down here, which is where I think we were talking about it, right around here. We don't have a whole lot of volume in this area here, so usually what will happen is price will be sucked up to the next area where you have the highest volume, or vice versa. If you were taking a short in a high volume area, it's typically going to be sucked down to your next high volume area.
Hold on, please.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let me get rid of that one.
I answered Scott's question as well.
Okay. And I'll just, the question that Scott asked that Maria answered via the keyboard was, do you have an example where you wanted to get in but the order flow kept you out? And Maria's saying, yes, if you think you should go long at a level and see a negative delta, you would not enter. So let's see what we got here. Let me just scroll back. I don't know what's going to show up because I had to restart my computer. And this is pre-market, so let's just see here. I mean, this is like after hours, so let's just scroll back here and see what we've got that we can look at. So what time is, that's 4 o'clock. I don't want to look at 4 o'clock. No, that's actually 3 o'clock. All right, so let's see what we find like in this area here on this point of control. What time is that? 3:10. What the heck? Why are you taking so long?
Hi.
All right, so let's see what we got here. Oh, darn. See, I'm not going to have my data because I had to restart my computer. I'm sorry, Scott. But let me go back here and let's see if we can find a slide here.
Actually, the volume on crude, Keith, there's always one good move before the crude pit opens. So between 6 and 7:30 Eastern on crude oil, you will get a really nice move every day.
So he wanted an example of where order flow would have kept us out. Let's see.
I showed him.
Okay.
You showed it before also. I didn't show it. I just, when you said, it was that example over here, I think, when you said it came down here, but the delta, 6 and 7 Eastern, there's always a good crude move. Yes.
So right
or I should
here.
say 6 and 8. Right. So if Trisha wanted to get short, like you'd see the number, and you see that there's still more buyers. You know, the delta is the difference between the buyers and the sellers. So you always know who has control before you enter a position. Except today when things are flying around.
So like
And,
right here, Scott, like I didn't know at the time here if this was going to, break through this 36.99 or, bounce off of that. So, that kept me out of trying to take a short in this area right here where we've got the positive delta. And then we come up with negative, but we still haven't broke this area. So I'm still not interested in shorting it because we haven't broken this area. So I could put a sell stop right under this area on this negative delta, and it would never have triggered me. Then when we see it go positive here, then I go ahead and I cancel my short, let's say, for example, waiting for it to break here, and we never get the negative again. It stays positive as it's running higher until we get up here, and we get minus 47 negative delta as we're moving higher. So obviously, that kept me out of that trade of trying to go short. So I hope that's a good example, Scott. Keith is saying, I asked about the day session times as most volume on CLTF happened during the day session and the TPO numbers would, as you say, be different. Have you used both to see the difference? The pivot points I use would be global. Yeah, that's what we use, Keith. We use the Globex
global
as well. But there are people who will plot multiple price profiles on their chart. So like you could put another value area on here, like you could put the tool on here again and change it from use session time to no, and then put 9:30 to 4 p.m. and then you'd have it showing up here twice, and you can just change the colors of the background from yellow to blue. You can make the regular day session two totally different colors, and then you could see the value areas from both of those if you wanted to.
That's also how swing traders use profiles to trade. You're trading from one profile to another. If you want to hold a position.
All right, you guys. So last chance. Anything else? And like I said, you'll get an email tomorrow. We're gonna make Maria come up with a special offer for you guys or anybody that's interested.
Holding a gun to my head.
And then, like I said, here's her email address, and you'll have the availability to just click on that when you get the download tomorrow, and just send her a request to come in her room. She allows people who don't have her tools in on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but it's by request only because she does have limited space there. So if you can't get in on a Wednesday or a Thursday, maybe she'll make an exception and let you in a different day, but that's up to her to work out. If not, then you just have to get on the waiting list and go the following week. So last chance, you guys. If there's anything else that we can help you with, now would be the time. Yeah, John, and I have found it so interesting, and like I said, I have tried a lot of them, and a lot of the order flow tools that I tried and that I looked into were really, one was really expensive. Two was some of them you don't even own the tools. You pay a pretty high price to lease them each month, so they're not even yours.
Plus, you could buy the tools and then there's no education. So.
And John's saying you can make money just taking the shorts and longs off the POC lines. Absolutely. And that's what is totally blowing my mind because, I'll do trades off, well, before order flow, I would do trades off of support and resistance, but it would have to establish a pretty good range before I'm doing it. Like I want to see a test and a retest before using those areas. But, using these value areas, which is, like I said, new to me, it just blows my mind how often those areas are holding. And, I still have my other areas I watch because I'm a creature of habit. I like to know where my previous day's high-low close are. I like to know where my 50% areas are. I feel more comfortable knowing where they're at, and if I'm taking a trade, a lot of times it'll still get stuck there, so I'm happy to know where those are. Dudley's saying, request to sit in your room one day.
Anytime, Dudley.
Send her an email, Dudley. Well, great, you guys. And, you know, next week what I'll try to do is I'll try to send out some... George, yes. You're going to give me a big engagement ring? George just proposed.
Of course. Duffy, you're in enough trouble.
You too, Jim. Well, thank you so much, you guys. And next week, thanks, John. Next week, what I'm going to do is I'll try to do some video recordings of actual trades that we took. And so hopefully that'll be helpful because it's, you know, it's really hard to get the concept while you're looking at a still slide. But like I said, next week I'll at least get, if I say it out loud, then I have to do it. So I'll do at least 2 videos next week of actual recordings of actual trades. So I hope that helps. So I'm going to just stop the recording.